I'll get pretty emotional probably here, but definitely felt like an outsider.
How would you say Shay's transition has affected your friendship?
But with trans, what came up for me was just this feeling that I viewed them as being confused.
So for today's video, we have got Sean here, Shay's best friend since high school. And maybe you've seen some of their reels about their friendship. A lot of people loved them. Today, we're going to be talking about friendship through a gender transition. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. I'm really excited. This will be fun.
So we thought it would be great to start off by you just saying a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Yeah, why are you here?
How did you get in my home? Yeah, my name's Sean. And even though I'm significantly younger than Shaye, we went to high school together, same grade. But I'm probably up to 48 hours younger than you are.
That's true.
Like crazy.
Sean's 2 days younger than me.
Yeah.
So I give him advice all the time. He's like, what advice would you have for me 2 days from now? I'm like, well,
On Thursday, what advice would you give to somebody on a Tuesday? And it's changed my life 100%. But yeah, I guess that's, we went to high school together, great friends in high school, we had the same schedule in high school, every class. We scheduled them together, the Shan schedule.
so Shaye and Sean, so we invented the Shan schedule.
Is that why we called it that?
Did you? All these years?
Oh man. Oh, gosh.
Should we just stop? No, I've known Sean since really Vietnam, I would say. But no, we met, I think, was it our sophomore or junior? It was our junior year, right?
I always forget which is which. Is it sophomore, junior, senior?
Yeah.
Yeah, so junior.
So yeah, I met Sean when I was a junior, and we just like hit it off. We were good friends really from the very beginning. We were both in a theater class together, and I remember Sean came into school and he had these sunglasses and he had these really interesting beard. He shaved it like something like a tattoo or something like that.
It was pretty embarrassing.
It was cool. It was
lightning
different.
bolts,
Yeah.
like the whole face.
So the thing that gave us the idea to do this video was the new documentary, Will and Harper. We all watched it together last weekend. If you haven't seen it, it's a documentary Will Ferrell produced. And in it, he and his good friend, Harper Steele, drive across the country. And Harper recently transitioned. And we all watched it. And I don't know about you, but I cried a lot. It was really sweet. So if you haven't seen it, big recommendation. But kind of reminds me of you two.
Yeah.
And Sean's every bit as funny as Will Ferrell. So seriously.
He was the class clown, so yeah,
For sure.
in a very bad way. Like,
The worst,
yeah.
worst kind of ways. Yeah.
So Sean, what was your initial reaction when Shaye first came out to you? Like, what was that like?
When it comes to meals, I think most of us want the same thing. We want lots of options and also convenience for our busy schedules. That is why Factor offers 35 wholesome meals every week. You can choose between Gourmet Plus meals, Calorie Smart, Keto, and Vegan and Veggie, so they can really help you stick to specific dietary goals and needs. Plus, their meals are ready in only 2 minutes. Factor's meals are fresh and never frozen and chef crafted for a restaurant-like experience. And they don't just offer dinners, they also offer lunch, breakfast, snacks, and smoothies. Their cold brew protein shake is the best protein shake I've tried. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use the code AbandaandShay50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code AmandaandShay50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. Thanks, Factor.
What was your initial reaction when Shaye first came out to you? Like, what was that like?
I think the initial, actual coming out, I think I was driving home to Pine Valley and you'd called about a video you were posting. And my initial reaction was making a joke about it. And I think about that all the time and I felt so bad about it. And then we got to talk about it later. But that was so much of just growing up, right? That's how it was. You just joke about everything, nothing serious.
So I called you to tell you that I was trans, or that's what I
I
told
think you did a video and you were saying, I never thought I would make a coming out video.
Oh.
And I said, we all knew you would.
We all thought it was you.
Yeah, not even that good of a joke, right? But, it's how you, I think we've both, at least myself, I can speak for, react with humor to everything, especially if we don't know how to react.
Yeah.
But it was when I got to sit down and think about it and realized what you were really saying, it was really interesting to me because I would think I would need to process some stuff, and I really didn't. There's a lot of awarenesses that came up for me
Really?
about things that I thought about trans people that I didn't know I thought. You know, like growing up, always very open to the queer community. You know, my parents were always very loving and supportive of that, especially. But there was some awarenesses that I did not incorporate that group with the queer community. So that was probably the biggest difference for me, was just this awareness that as much as I want to be a loving, compassionate, welcoming person, there was some stuff in me that I wasn't aware of that wasn't. So it's been a real blessing for me to be able to shed that stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's like being trans has kind of been like the last thing for the LGBTQ experience for people, especially in places like Utah where you don't see it as much, right? So it's a little harder. But hearing you saying that, I mean, I think that's also why it took me so long to come out. Is I started to see, you know, just from 2010 to living in Utah and the Mormon faith that we were part of being very against gay marriage, to seeing that kind of diminish where people didn't care as much, to suddenly seeing some acceptance with people coming out as trans. And I say some because it's very much still a heated issue right now. But yeah, it was my biggest fear, honestly, my whole life was just like losing people like Sean. And if I show up as me, then everyone will leave me. And that really stemmed back to just feeling that way as a child. So
Yeah, and I think growing up in Utah, it's can be a lot of different things. But I know you grew up here feeling different too, right? What was it like growing up in Utah for you?
Yeah, so I left the church when I was 12, and I was never really in it. Like it was never my jam.
the Mormon faith, so yeah.
The Mormon faith, yeah. I never got it, right? It never sunk in with me. It always felt weird. I don't know if that's weird to say. It's probably weird to say, but it just never sunk in with me. It was just never my thing, right? And so I was out at 12, and I remember very distinctively accepting that I did not love it. So yeah, so from 12 on, and I think I moved to St. George when I was 16. It was nice because I also looked like Napoleon Dynamite when I was 14, and that was before the movie. So it wasn't like this cool, I have a picture I can send you. It wasn't this cool, like funny thing that I was looking like Napoleon Dynamite. And so I had this, like, I got to move here after that stage. So I didn't have to bring that weird, awkward growing up stuff with me. But still I wasn't a part of the church. And that, I'll get pretty emotional probably here, but definitely felt like an outsider a lot of the time. And even talking about like how we clicked so quickly, I feel like that's probably a big part of it, that we both felt like we were on the outside. Specifically with, we had a lot of great friends. We had a really good friend group. But I'd get asked to Sadie Hawkins, and then the next day the girl would come and say, hey, like my dad said I can't go with you because you're not Mormon. So stuff like that, or feeling like sometimes maybe I was a project that somebody was going to work on and convert to the church. Kind of like Shaye works on me now to groom me into being trans. Yeah,
It's true. I'm so close. I'm like, just take the estrogen, Sean. Everyone's doing it. I think one thing you just said was so good, was realizing that we were both masking, right? It's like I was masking by trying to be this version of what I was supposed to be. And in your own way, you were doing the same thing, even though you didn't really align with the culture of, the Mormon faith, with all of our friends being Mormon in high school. It's like we were both, in a way, outsiders, but pretending not to be. And in a funny way, I think that's why we use humor so much, like you were saying. It's just like to kind of laugh our way through things. And if we made people laugh, then it's like, then we were okay, right?
Yeah,
it's for funny.
You're safe. If you can make people laugh, they'll put you in their sphere. Yeah.
The saddest thing about it to me is, I think if you talk to most of the people that you grew up with, they would say there was ways that they didn't feel like they belonged, even if they were in the church. When you have a culture that doesn't love people where they're at and has all of these rules and boundaries that you put on accepting people, even the people that are fitting those rules, I don't think are super, they might feel like they're masking well enough, but it's about where it ends.
It's like the system privileged sameness, like where everyone was kind of playing, we're all trying to be the same person, yet it can be so painful if you don't fit the privileged ideal, right?
So how would you say Shay's transition has affected your friendship?
I think we're substantially better friends now. You were so annoying before, just unbearable to be around.
Yeah, and it's funny because I find you more annoying now. It's like if we have any pride event, Sean has to be there, and I'm like, okay, Sean, like,
Got to be the center of
yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so annoying. Like biggest ally right
yeah,
there.
yeah. It's like, oh, I got Converse with the pride flag on it. Like,
I've
look at
got
me.
my Converse with the pride flag.
Hey, the straights are
I
taking
actually
over.
had a sign at the last Pride event protesting that I didn't get awarded biggest ally. You might have heard me there behind the fence there. Yeah.
They kicked him out.
I think we are substantially better friends. Like I think we've always been really good friends.
Yeah.
And always felt really just safe with each other. I always feel funniest when I'm around you. Always. Just because that charity laughing probably. But I think it is just this feeling authentic, right? Not feeling like I have to force anything or watch what I say. Right.
It's a beautiful feeling is when you can be the most truest version of yourself and have that being received equally, and that's what's so cool about, I think, our relationship is we've always been super close, but looking at me being accepted as being who I am, and not only just being accepted, but being celebrated. I was saying to Amanda the other night, it's like I have a lot of friends that have been supportive, but there's a difference when it's like you feel like someone doesn't just support you, but they want to embrace and celebrate who you are. And like, I feel that way with Sean too. And in a way, I feel like what you're saying is that you took off your mask and now you can fully be you, regardless of not fitting into this community that we're both born in. And I get the most authentic version of you where you don't feel like you have to hide anything from me because I'm going to convert you, which I'm still thinking about. Like what?
To Mormonism?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You went undercover?
Yes. Yes. The missionaries will be here in 5 minutes.
So you mentioned earlier you felt like you had your heart open to the LGBTQ community, which I really relate with what you were saying. But there was some stuff, like some preconceived ideas that you had about trans people that you weren't even aware you had. How has Shay's transition kind of changed your view of some of those things?
I think my view of the queer community for just broadly was that they were just living authentically as who they were. And even the conversation of being born this way or not, like, I don't think that matters. Like if somebody's born gay or whatever it is, I don't think that is any different than at 25 deciding you are or changing your mind. Like I never thought that argument even mattered personally. But with trans, what came up for me was just this feeling that I viewed them as being confused, as maybe wanting attention or just being mentally ill, right? These are the things that came up for me. And it was a real gift, right? To be able to look at somebody in that community and be able to without a doubt say, I don't feel like Shaye is confused at all. Our entire friendship up to that, I think I got the feeling that you were confused, right?
That's not far from the truth though, in a way, right? When you're not being who you are, that's pretty confusing and hard. Yeah.
Like now you definitely seem just present, authentic. Whereas before maybe seemed distracted, right? And I think I could see that because that's where I was, right?
Yeah,
at the same time.
Definitely more dissociative, like, for sure.
So it's been a real gift to be able to look at those things. There's a quote, I think you said it once, about the best experience or the best cure for bigotry is experience. Exposure, something. So to be able to experience that and compare that to what was coming up for me was really awesome because it wasn't difficult. It was this in the moment, this thought's no longer here.
I think something that was so interesting looking back and almost cathartic was Sean's parents. I remember in high school going to their house and them being supportive of gay marriage. And at the time I was very devoutly Mormon. And I remember it made me feel so uncomfortable. I remember talking to your mom about it and it really bothered me. And it bothered me because I didn't have language to know what was going on with me. I didn't know about trans at the time, but I knew it was different. So there was something about the experience of being gay that I could see some crossover, that I was part of this community somehow, but I didn't want to admit it, which is so common, by the way. I feel like the people that are so against this community often are hiding something, or something that they need to unravel, whether they're LGBT, whatever it is. It's always something that's mirroring back to them, that they're not okay with being them. Yeah, that was just a powerful experience. And it was so neat to be able to go and talk to Sean's parents more so recently, and just tell them how much that meant to me, that they were right, you know, and it's something I always get emotional about, but they were they were a beacon for something that I wanted in my life growing up. And I think that largely shaped how you are today, where you just accepted me all the way. You didn't need to ask me questions. We didn't have to go on a road trip. And, I mean, we did. We drove down our Boulevard Street here, but it meant a lot to me that you just were so loving and embracing. So,
What advice would you have for someone who has a friend or loved one come out? Maybe it's transgender or just queer in general. What would you say to them?
It's interesting because it's such a difficult question in that it doesn't feel difficult. I guess I would probably just say don't overthink it. If anything, just know that that person's the same person you've always known, probably more of that person than you've ever known. It'd be really cool if I could have some catchy quote. I'd say maybe the piece of advice that I wish I'd had. If you say something, if you stumble and say something you didn't mean, or you make a joke out of instinct, that you're not going to hate me for it, that you're not going to think that I think something about it. That was probably the hardest part for me, selfishly, was just staying up at night thinking, oh my God, I said this thing.
oh, really?
What are they going to think that I was saying when I didn't mean it that way at all? It was just this,
No.
you know,
Something I loved in that documentary.
really, I hate you so much.
Yeah, I know. That's why we brought you on here. Something I loved in the Harper documentaries when she talked about how it was okay for Will to ask her questions because she knew that she could trust Will, and that Will cared for her no matter what. And that's so funny because I didn't know that bothered you for so long, the things you said, because you had much bigger issues that bugged me for years. So, in fact, I thought we could talk about those now.
Bring out the list.
Yeah, like that time in high school.
Time in high school when you kept on ditching class and the teacher thought you were me, and so I got marked as
But I
not
thought it was
attending.
selfish though that you would not go for me. And I think like a real friend would have done that. And I don't
Well,
think
let's be real. I did. I went to detention for Shaye for a whole week because she didn't go to class, and I got marked tardy because the teacher didn't know who was who, and Shaye didn't do anything about it. All she had to do was go and tell the teacher. Wouldn't do it.
well, at that time I just thought that would be the best way for Sean to know that like I'm going through something. And so, is there anything you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think going through an experience like this, we have a lot of relationships and friendships that no longer really fit into our lives. Some people that just haven't really stuck around. And I don't think we spend any time being bitter about that. We get it. But the people who do, it's such a special thing to have friends that you just really feel seen by. And so thank you for being one of those people, Sean. We really appreciate you. And Sean's beautiful wife, Sanj. We love them both very much. So.
Anytime we have an event or anything like that in our community, they're always there. So it's been amazing to have you guys in our lives. So.
All right. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Bye.
I was fixing my hat. I don't know if that's going to be weird.
She'll probably cut in anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I'll probably cut you out of the whole video anyway.
That'd be good.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. We have our wonderful friend Sean here, and the reason his face is blurred is because he loves Shaye and is our super good friend, but he's asked to remain anonymous in talking about his support for Shaye's transition.
I met Shaye in 1998.